Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U podcast, Miami Herald's Miami Hurricanes podcast. I'm David Wilson. I'm joined, as always, on the other line by Susan Miller-Degnan. She didn't flip from Ohio State to Ohio State. She's stuck with the Canes. Susan, what's going on?
Ever.
Kind of botch that
Hey,
in.
I can tell you one thing. If I was flipping, it wouldn't be to Ohio State. Nightmare of my life, Ohio State. I'll never forgive Ohio State for that triple, double overtime, whatever it was, the
Yeah.
national championship. That was like horrific.
We will get into some Miami Ohio State recruiting battles because that really kind of wound up being the story of the recruiting cycle for Miami, going really for the last couple of weeks and going all the way up until what, a 10:30 p.m. last night. There was still a Miami Ohio State battle
Even
technically
longer,
going
even
on.
up later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
terrible.
but for the most part, Miami came out on top in a lot of those battles, and it made for a really good class for the Canes. Really one of their best ever. Number three in the 24/7 composite rankings as we talk right now. Probably where they'll stay. There's not a lot of big time recruits out there, and certainly it looks like a top five class for Miami, who pulls off a couple huge flips on the final day, not the final, but on the first day of the early signing period,
Mhm.
including Armando Blunt, a five-star defensive lineman from Miami Central, who flipped from Miami to Florida State in October, and flips back to the hometown Canes on Wednesday. A lot to get to, but I guess just first, big picture, what do you make of this class? It seems pretty hard to be upset about uh, pretty much anything in this class. We'll pick some nits later on, but um, Mario is living up to that promise, certainly.
Yeah, really good class. Pretty balanced, I'd say, offense and defense. And he wanted to get the guys up front. He loves
Yeah.
his linemen on both sides of the ball. We know he did last year. He did it last year with the offensive linemen, and then right away they're with his coaching
Hmm.
and Alex Mirabel's coaching. They're one of the best offensive lines in the
Yeah.
country, actually. And now this year he was definitely openly going for a defensive lineman, and he got some like stupendous. He got really good linemen, including flips, and he got two five-star right linemen.
Yeah. Both
Um,
flipped in the last
so
month too. Um,
yeah, Ohio State.
yeah, Justin Scott,
Uh,
five-star defensive tackle from Ohio State, flipped what I think at the end of November. And on Wednesday, I guess we'll get into some of the news here. The biggest
mhm.
piece of news from the day for Miami was not a big surprise necessarily, but um, Armando Blunt, who, as we meant, he was committed to Miami back in September. At that point, he was actually part of the class of 2025. Um, Flipped to Florida State about a month after that, reclassified to the class of 2024. Uh, but Miami stuck with him, kept recruiting him, obviously playing at Miami Central, played the first 3 years of high school at Dillard, so South Florida guy. Central in particular has been a really good recruiting ground for Miami. Um,
Yep.
they stuck with him there, and last weekend, the final official visit weekend of the recruiting cycle for those guys signing early. Instead of going to Florida State, he goes to Miami. The writing was kind of on the wall there, and the Canes complete the flip on
Oh,
Wednesday night. Um,
right.
Not a huge surprise, but still a huge victory for Miami, and obviously one that I think would have been by the end of this recruiting cycle, Miami had, I think, rebounded and put, they were going to be a top six class, I think, even without him. Um, but it would have been a
Poor.
really tough loss. The fact that Miami had him committed, a guy from their backyard from Miami Central, which is, as I mentioned, has been, Ruben Bain played there, Wesley Bissainthe played there. They've gotten kind of the top guy out of there for a bunch of years in a row. Um, and A huge win for Miami because it looked like Florida State had stolen a really good player from them, and he's going to get there on campus next month. Only 16 years old. He's graduating high school a year early.
I
Um,
know it's crazy.
yeah,
Wow.
Dillard's a 6 through 12 school, I think, or 7 through 12. It's a middle school and high school combined. So he was able to start playing varsity football as an eighth grader. Um, that's the big story of the day. Local kid. um, and really like puts the finishing touches on, as you mentioned, what is a incredible class of defensive linemen.
What was it like there? You went to the ceremony.
Yeah, it was, small and
Armando,
kind of intimate. It was, friends and family, coaches, stuff like that. He did it up in, he's playing at Miami Central, but did it up in Lauderhill, right by Dillard High School. Um,
where? Like at a little room, like what
it
kind
was
of
at like,
place?
like a dance studio or something. It was like,
Right,
a small little venue,
right.
close to the school. Clearly a lot, wanted to have it there, I think, so he could have, instead of doing it, Miami Central did their ceremony at 9 a.m. in the gym. He's only been at Miami Central for a year, so I think he wanted to do it somewhere where he could kind of have his like Dillard family and his Central family kind of there together. Um, and we got there and it was like everyone knew he was going to Miami. Like a lot
I
of
know,
people
but
wearing
he did
Kings
it.
gear.
He did it on time, right?
Yeah,
I
right on
couldn't
time. I think he
believe
did it
it. I
early, honestly.
what did he do? Yeah, I was like, what?
He
Six
just got it
o'clock?
was
He
very low
did
key.
it.
I was kind of like,
What?
not a whole lot of drama. He just took the mic and stood in the front of the room, gave a little speech. I put the video out and committed to Miami, and then like a national championship level of confetti shot out of cannons around in orange and green. And
I know.
I thought very low key. I was kind of like
I was.
impressed. The guy who's had a very dramatic recruitment. He's reclassified. He's flipped twice between two different, just keeps going back and forth. Transferred schools. Very low key, I thought, for, did his own thing, right? It wasn't in the gym, so that
What
yeah.
did his mom do?
They were just excited. They were clear. The family was clearly very happy to have him
Oh yeah,
staying home in Miami, and
understood.
and we talked to him for a whole group of reporters. Obviously, were there, and what I thought was interesting talking to him, and I know like he's gonna get compared to Ruben Bain a lot. I think they're similar body types. He's a little taller
Mhm.
than Ruben, but kind of like that big defensive end. Um, Obviously both super
Right.
productive, played at Central. Ruben's whole thing was he wanted to play defensive end, and it paid off,
And he
right? He looks
wanted
like
to.
one of the best defensive ends in the country.
I know he
Um,
wanted to prove he
he,
could.
he was very adamant about it. It was interesting talking to
Yeah.
Armando, and again, he's only 16. He's got to develop a lot. He was very much open to just like I'm ready to do whatever. He's a little bigger. I think he's maybe a little bit more of a natural fit as a defensive tackle because he's got that size. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, he's just talking to him last night. He was just really willing to do whatever for this team, which is, I think I want to talk later on about the guys who I think are gonna help them out next year. Armando's gonna be young, he's gonna be 17 years old when the season starts, but
Well,
that's really
yeah.
valuable right now for this group because they've got, I think they've got two, Ruben Bain and Nigel E. Kelly. Those are your two defensive ends. They've got a bunch of portal guys on the defensive line, including Marley Cook from
Yeah, that they
there at
got,
Tennessee last night. So they got some veterans
and
there,
he's
but
good.
so I think a guy like Armando Blunt who can do a couple of, who can play defensive end, who can play defensive tackle. He's going to be obviously has a chance to be really, really good long term, but I think he could be, even though he's young, valuable to this team next year, especially if he comes in with that attitude.
Yeah, I agree. And they definitely needed defensive tackles with
Yeah,
LT
LT's going,
leaving.
Branson Dean going. We don't know who those like. It's hard to project who those starting defensive tackles are going to be next year.
No, but I mean, no, it is hard, but clearly they get a transfer that has 1 year left. This guy
Hmm.
Cook.
Yeah, yeah, they're banking on
So
those guys to help them. So.
yeah, and there are other guys too they've gotten transfer. Isn't there another guy? Is his last name Cook? There's another.
Um,
I have to look. Another defensive
the NC
tackle. I
State
wrote.
guy. I'm blanking on his name right now. Um,
I thought CJ. No, C. I gotta. Now I'm gonna have to look up my
yeah.
story. But yeah, they're they, Mario was smart. I think he got the best defensive line in the country
DJ
yesterday.
Clark.
Okay. Clark and Cook. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, got
Yeah,
that. I
well,
agree. Best defensive line in the country. Justin Scott, again, five-star defensive lineman coming down from Chicago. They flipped him from Ohio State less than a month ago. Another guy who's going to be able to help him, I think, early on as we talk about the need at defensive
he's
tackle.
big, by the way.
big, yeah.
6'4", 310, and he's a five
Play some
star.
running
So
back
that's
for them too. I always like those defensive linemen who get the ball in their hands a little bit. You know they've got obviously athleticism and footwork and all that kind of stuff, but also just like
great.
football IQ. You got to have that if you're gonna be a two-way guy like that. Um,
Yep.
and Marquise Lightfoot, top 100 recruit defensive end from also from Chicago. Uh,
Yep.
Some guys we talked about last week. Elias Rudolph from Cincinnati, who's briefly a Deerfield Buck. Um, uh, yeah, they got. I mean, it's the best. I don't know rankings wise, but it certainly feels like the best defensive line class in the country. It would have been one of them even without Blunt, but getting that one extra piece kind of makes it unassailable. And the way that last year they had this great offensive line class for a lot of different reasons, but you had to start with five-star tackle Francis Mauigoa and five-star tackle Samson Okunlola. Same way with this class this year. They got a lot of good pieces on the defensive line, but you can say we've got five-star defensive lineman Justin Scott and five-star defensive lineman Armando Blunt. That's a pretty good.
That's big.
Yeah.
And by the way, we didn't talk about this before when we were discussing this podcast, but I just have to say you did a great segue into an unplanned subject, and that's that we haven't said that Jalen Rivers
Oh
is
yeah,
returning.
true. Yeah.
That Jalen Rivers is our offensive tackle, left tackle. I think this will be his 5th year coming up,
Mhm.
pretty sure. But the thing is, he definitely could have entered the draft.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. He's a really nice guy. He's very serious, smart, definitely a leader.
And it gives them some very
And
important flexibility because we're going to talk about
on the left side,
we're going to kind of
oh
go
my
through a
God,
lot of the
yes.
class, but this is not, last year's offensive line class was incredible.
Right.
This year's class is not, they clearly did not prioritize it in the same way after they invested so much there last year and clearly view Mauigoa and
Right.
Okunlola kind of as the future. Okunlola though was injured last. We haven't seen a lot of him.
Exactly.
So having Jalen coming back gives you that flexibility where you don't need to hit the portal. You did not, I think they got, Markel Bell, a transfer who's clearly really interesting, a JUCO transfer, but they did not have to like prioritize the offensive line in the same way they did last year.
Especially since we thought that they might lose the entire left side of the
Yeah.
line. Well, they lost the center. Matt Lee's going to NFL, and then Jalen Rivers is left tackle, and then left guard Javion Cohn, who was a transfer from Alabama, is going to the NFL.
Yeah.
So they really having him there is going to be a big help. I really mean it. They must be ecstatic that he's coming back. So
the other big flip of the day for Miami was Adarius Hayes, 4-star linebacker from Largo, flipping from Florida. Not a good day for the Gators. We don't have to dive into that, but an ugly day for them. But another big addition for Miami. Hayes, another guy they lost out on in a recruiting battle over the summer and just stuck with it. Got him on campus for an official visit. They're bringing back Francisco Mauigoa, who's announced he's returning instead of going for the NFL. So they've got their linebacker position in, I think, a really good spot right now with Besaint and Mauigoa. But Hayes, they have to keep. That has been such a tricky position for Miami for whatever reason in the last 5-6 years until recently. So yeah, getting Hayes in there to develop behind those two guys is important.
Yeah, and Corey, left. And is at Missouri now. He transferred. So, Corey Flagg. Yeah, they needed the Mauigoa coming back was huge.
Yeah.
Huge with Besaint. And I mean, now they're, the way they run their defense, they got two really good guys, and then they have a young guy coming in. So, yeah, that was a big get. I agree.
The other flip of I guess first, just quickly, they miss out.
On Kevin Riley, running back.
Yeah, they miss out on Kevin Riley, 4-star running back from Alabama.
Which we figured because
two
things. He lives in Tuscaloosa, and apparently Nick Saban wanted him really badly.
Yeah.
So he took his final visit there, and just like Blunt, it's the same thing.
kind of happened simultaneous with,
Oh,
we
with
should
Jordan
say,
Lyle
Jordan Lyle
flipping.
flipping from Miami or from Ohio
Right.
State to Miami. We mentioned Justin Scott. Uh, as I said, the big storyline really for Miami in this recruiting cycle became these Ohio State Miami battles, and Miami, missed out on one of them, which we'll talk about. Jeremiah Smith, the number one recruit in the country, from Chaminade, goes to heading up to Columbus after Miami made a late push to try to
And
keep
almost
him
got him.
home and seemed to maybe almost get him.
They almost got him. Yeah.
But Miami, as we said, wins that Justin Scott recruitment and pulls him out of the Midwest, which is pretty notable. And then gets Jordan Lyle, a four-star running back from St. Thomas Aquinas. Uh, one of the best players in South Florida this year, who had been committed to Ohio State for a long time. Obviously, going to draw a lot of parallels to the Mark Fletcher situation from last year, where he was committed to Ohio State for a long time. Miami made a late push, and now Fletcher, looks like a future NFL running back and a guy who's going to be the foundation, I think, of this offense potentially next year. Lyle's a different player. He's a little smaller, doesn't have that same type of like NFL build, but ultra productive, helped St. Thomas, four-time state champion at St. Thomas Aquinas, and was the centerpiece of their offense this year, ran for 1,300 yards. So, yeah, those battles were fun. And I mean, can you remember Miami winning so many like head-to-head recruiting battles like that?
Yeah, it's
You'd
pretty.
have to go back a really long time.
Yeah, it's very impressive actually.
Yeah.
And the answer is no, not really.
Yeah.
And it's great that they're getting running backs again, because I've never seen anything like Mark Fletcher. I just have to, I have to keep, giving him kudos because that kid is, you told me all about him, but he's better than I thought. He's better than I
Mhm.
expected. So let's just keep him healthy, and that's going to help a lot in whoever they get as a quarterback.
Yeah, it's interesting that like last year, I think, and we'll talk. There's some guys from this class, and I wrote about it on signing day, who I think are going to come in and push for starting jobs right away. Um,
Yep.
you can just tell like the year over year development of this roster. Like we're not talking about nearly as many of those guys, I don't think, this year as we were last year, where, Mark Fletcher, we thought had a really good chance to like play a lot this year. And obviously Francis Mangoa, I think we
Oh,
all
yeah.
expected was going to come in and start a tackle as he did.
Yep.
Trying to think, obviously Emory Williams wasn't supposed to play, but we saw him. Ruben Bain pushed his way onto the field. But this year's class, I think you're seeing Miami starting to get to build up some of that depth. Where do they need two running? They also have Chris Wheatley Humphrey
Yes.
coming in, who was the leading
Andrew's
rusher in
good.
Broward County this year.
Right.
Like, did you need another stud running back? Like, I guess maybe did, because you
To
lose
me, the
Don
answer is
Chaney.
yes,
You always
because
need running backs, but like,
yes, because they get injured
yeah,
all the time. I mean, Parrish got injured,
yep,
by the way. I don't know, but I know he got injured at the end, and they always get injured. I mean, it's a very tough position.
yeah.
Ever
My
since
my bigger point is they're stacking talent in a way that last year they were getting guys who felt like you got them and they're gonna have to play soon, like this year or next year.
right.
And now they're getting guys who are big recruiting. This is a guy they flipped from Ohio State, and um, didn't
Yep.
feel like it would be like crippling if you miss. I mean, they miss out on Jeremiah Smith, and it doesn't feel crippling. It would have been really nice to have him, but
Well,
um,
no, it might not feel crippling, but it would feel
well, yeah,
the absolute opposite if they got him. They really need a big body, but we'll talk about that
uh-huh,
whenever you want to bring up receivers.
yeah. Well, I do want to talk about, I think, the kind of like the run through the strengths and weaknesses of this class. And we talked a lot
Okay.
about the defensive line. Clearly, the strength of this class. I don't know, there's not a lot to say. Like, you can never have too many good defensive linemen. As you mentioned, they need, they're really good. I think they're very well stocked at defensive end. But defensive tackle, they certainly needed. They're going to need guys to help
Yeah.
out soon. They went out and got some guys who can do that. They've
Yep.
built up that depth. We've talked about it over and over again on this show. The way this is how Mario is going to build. He's going to prioritize the trenches. He's going to go all in on an offensive line and then go all in on a defensive line. And if you pretty much alternate doing that, you're going to be fine. Um, So
Yeah.
that's the strength. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about this group of defensive linemen other than what we've
No,
already
that
said?
they're really good, and he needed them because, yeah, we said everything.
Booker
That
Pickett, another guy we should mention, a Canes legacy, another part of that class who had a super productive year for Wharton in Tampa. Artavius Jones from Bluntstown up in
What
the
about Cole
Panhandle.
McConaughey?
Cole McConaughey, who was like
He likes
Alabama's
him.
best defensive player this year.
Yeah, he likes him a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Jones is
yeah,
really interesting to me, a four-sport athlete. He was a state champion weightlifter, so um,
yeah, very cool,
they've got
actually.
I think a good group of good combination of like skill sets, um, projects, super productive guys. Like you kind of checked off all the boxes, I think, with that class. The other strength, even though they missed out on Jeremiah Smith, I like this wide receiver class quite a bit. Um,
Mhm.
JoJo Trader is, if it wasn't
Really
for
good.
Jeremiah Smith, like the guy probably would have had like 1,400 yards this year for Chaminade. Still was, I think, 1,000-yard receiver, close to it. Um, I've I've definitely said it a bunch of times. I remember he was playing at Central a couple years ago, and in the state championship, they put his first ever play on defense. He had a pick six in the state championship game. So
Well, yeah.
been impressed by him a long time. Nikar, who's a guy that I haven't seen him in person from Georgia. Um, by all accounts, like a real stud. A guy who was committed to Georgia for a long time. Um, and then Chance Robinson, we should mention the four St. Thomas Aquinas guys in this class, which
Yes.
they hadn't had a high school player sign out of St. Thomas Aquinas since 2019, which that's a program that's I think won a state
Who was
championship
that?
every year since then. So
Yeah.
pretty good.
Who was that? Do you
Avery
know?
Huff, I think, is the last one.
Oh,
I
okay.
think they had maybe had a couple guys that year. They had Al Blades was
Never
from
did
there,
anything though.
obviously,
Yeah.
and Mike Harley. But since then, they've not recruited that. A lot of those guys have gone to Big Ten schools. Michigan, Ohio State have recruited there very well.
Mhm.
Obviously, Florida has recruited there very well. Dallas Turner from Alabama was a St. Thomas guy. Um, so that, I mean, just important to recruit that school well. But Chance Robinson, another good receiver to add to that class, and a little bit bigger of a body than a guy like Nye Carr. But it had a chance to be, I think this was a very good receiver class. It had a chance to be maybe the best in the country if they'd gotten Jeremiah Smith, but they could not quite close the deal there. Uh, kept kept pushing at it way past the time that he made his announcement at noon on Wednesday, and for another 10 hours, there was a lot of drama before
Oh,
finally
there was a
Florida
lot.
State, close to midnight, announced that he had signed his national letter of intent.
Yeah. I was like, is this a fake account? Is this the real? Because I had to run and change my story. Like, nope,
Uh-huh.
this is not a fake account. It has like a zillion, followers.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a relief. I'm glad for him if that's what he wanted. And I just think that Miami needs some big bodied guys. Colby Young transferred
Hmm.
and is going to Georgia.
It sounds like that's like what the
Yeah,
crystal ball will
I
say.
wow. Wow, it's a shame for Miami because he was good, but
Yeah.
he wasn't as productive as some of the. I mean, he was productive, but not the most productive.
Hmm. Yeah.
I just really hope still that Jacoby George sticks around. I know I'm. It's just David in this day of the
Yeah, you
transfer
never
portal.
know. Yep. I
You just never
100% get
know.
you.
Like, are they waiting for the new quarterback? Are they you just don't know. So man, I hope Jacoby George is really good. I hope he sticks around. It's crazy that I'm saying Xavier Strepo. I hope he sticks around. It's just been too silent around him.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, I would love them to have a big body guy. I'm sure Mario is just, I don't know why they haven't gotten it like a six,
Yeah, those
six
guys are
foot.
hard to get. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason Jeremiah Smith was the number one recruit in the country because he's
And when you saw
looks
him
like Calvin
standing
Johnson or whatever.
and when you see him standing even next to JoJo and stuff, he's so big,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
I
anyway,
mean, he's obviously he's a lot of people think one of the best wide receiver recruits to come around in a long time. So he's even on a different level. But yeah, I mean, those guys are really hard to find. Everyone wants them. Um, Miami seemed to be in it. Who knows if they win 9 games last year, maybe it's a little different. I know, hard to argue with Ohio State right now, the way they produce wide receivers.
Right.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a top 5 pick. It's not like he was the number one. He was like I don't think he was even a top 100 recruit. So they're developing guys well there. It's hard to fault anyone for going to Ohio State, but yeah, it feels
Right.
like kind of the one, it's not the only thing missing from the class, but one of the big gaping holes in this roster is a bigger receiver, a bigger elite number one receiver. I know Xavier Restrepo
Yeah.
was really good last year, but
Yep.
he's still a guy who does most of his work in the slot in the middle of the field. Um, it's hard to find guys like Jeremiah Smith, and I know it's not like I said, it's not crippling that they lose him, but
No.
man, you'd feel really, really, really good about this class if you can keep him home, because you're not gonna have a lot of chances to get guys like that. Like Jeremiah Smiths
And you
don't come
need a guy
around.
that,
Jeremiah
yeah,
Smiths don't come around every once in a while, and especially they don't come around every once in a while. They don't come around very often, especially when they play high school football 30 minutes away from you.
exactly. You need guys that can contest
Yeah.
catches and things that are big. So, okay, but I agree with you that the talent among the receivers has really risen from
Yeah.
when we
And
first
we
did
saw it
the
last year. We saw it starting last year with just the
yeah, starting
improvement of
this
those guys.
season,
Yeah.
for sure. Or
Um,
this year,
sorry,
right? You mean
whatever this,
this
yeah,
year?
the current season. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
still one more game. I
Yeah,
can't
there is.
believe
We're
it, but
still in the
yes,
middle of the season, I guess, technically.
it's crazy. Yeah.
As far as weaknesses in this class, cornerback clearly kind of like the most glaring one. They get the two St. Thomas Aquinas kids, Ryan Mack, a legacy. His dad, Rod Mack, was a linebacker at Miami, and OJ Frederic. Miss out on Xavier Lucas. They were trying to flip him from Wisconsin down the stretch. He's a American
Right.
Heritage kid. Was not the strongest cornerback class in South Florida, obviously, which hurts Miami, but it still feels like that's a weakness on this roster. That is, I know they had a lot of transfers who, between Damari Brown, obviously coming in as a recruit last year, Devontae Brown, Jaden Davis, like they definitely have improved that position quite a bit over the last 12 months, but have still not. When you look at, offensive line looks great, defensive line looks great, linebacker looks really good, running back looks great, wide receiver looks really good. Cornerback still feels like a little bit of an outlier in this roster, and that they haven't been able to
Yes.
build up that position group in the same way they built up so many others.
They still have the Corey Couch.
Yeah.
Um,
They've got some
so
bets there, right? But yeah, it feels like a
he's
weakness. The
he's
other part of this class that I think is a question mark, I won't say it's a weakness because clearly Miami likes the guy a lot, is the quarterback. Judd Anderson coming in, interesting prospect, certainly 6'6", 6'7", a basketball player, a guy who's transferred a bunch of high schools and was still super productive as a senior by the time he finally got to Warner Robins. It is, however, the second straight year that Miami did not get a blue chip quarterback in the class. But you talked to Judd earlier this week. It's telling that he committed to Miami so early. Like, you don't take a commitment that early if you don't think he's a good player. So Miami clearly has pretty high hopes about him. But what did you take away from talking to him this week?
well, he's very confident, outgoing. He thinks he's really good, and
Uh-huh.
he said, "Hey, you know, I said it might be that you have to redshirt," and he said, he said, "I understand that, obviously, but
Hmm.
um, I'm I'm not afraid to compete." He said, "I think I'm good enough to compete with anybody on their roster, any quarterback on their roster." Um, he had a tough year last season,
Yeah.
not this
Yeah, in
2023.
2022. Yeah.
Yeah, 2022 he had a very tough year. He was at a different school, Jones County. They played. They weren't. There were some problems between him and the coaches, and they weren't. It wasn't a good fit. And anyway, he came back to give it a try, and they ended up alternating every
Hmm.
single drive, every single series. they alternated, which is really tough
Yeah.
for a quarterback. It wouldn't be like 2 series and then every series another quarterback would play. And he's like, well, this is his last year,
Yeah.
and he's you know, he's going to go to some fairly major college or whatever. So they left after 2 games and went to this new school. And David, at this new school, I know I saw you were in our little blurbs. You had all his final numbers combined, but at the new school, which was a good school, by the way, this
Yeah.
Warner Robins, he threw 2,900 yards, 2,917 yards, and his completion percentage was a 73.6.
Hmm.
30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Because the thing about him was he played 12 games for that team. Okay.
Right.
So 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It was the other team he played for, I think he had 15 touchdowns and 13 picks, but it was not it was a bad scene, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy for him because he seems like a really good kid, and I know that Shannon Dawson, the UM offensive coordinator, is really high on him. And by the way, he's 6'7", and he's a
Yeah.
real
Big.
6'7".
Yeah. And played
A real
basketball, averaged a double-double in basketball.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. He led Georgia, the state of Georgia, in rebounds, I think his sophomore, junior year. He was good, but he quit this. He didn't. He said he still misses it, but he stopped playing basketball this season because he needed to concentrate on he didn't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
He wanted to concentrate on football. He's athletic. I think he's super big. He weighs 225, so he looks super skinny still at 225, but he'll grow into his body. They know what he's going to become. He's going
Yeah.
to become a big guy, and supposedly he's very agile and very good footwork. Maybe because of basketball, he moves
Hmm.
okay, and they said that he's not like a typical 6'7" gawky, goofy,
Yeah.
awkward kind of kid. So we'll see. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. I mean,
Yeah.
not Judd, Emory Williams last year was a little under the radar too.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and
I have not
I
seen
don't
I had not seen either of them play much in high school, so I don't want to like
right,
compare them, but they do feel kind of similar where they're again a little under the radar, not super highly ranked.
right.
But Miami, they committed pretty early on. I think Miami really likes the personality for both of them, which is obviously very important at quarterback.
Yes.
Um,
And Dawson
and
likes that really good kid, smart,
and I
high,
think and I think with both of them, like Emery, what he hadn't, I think his didn't start a game in high school until his junior year. You mentioned all the stuff with Judd behind the
oh,
scenes. Like they're
Judd
two
never
interesting guys
played.
where maybe um maybe are under the radar for reasons other than their ability
Yeah.
for stuff having to do with the situation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And Judd, by the way, he never played in Pop Warner or
Yeah,
like a lot of these kids, youth football. He didn't play until he got to school, sixth
right.
grade, the school team, the middle
Hmm.
school team. So, I mean, how much the middle school, I'm not sure how that goes as far as middle school,
Yeah,
but, and he started as a receiver, and then they moved him to quarterback. So, yeah, we'll see, but I'm pulling for him. It's a good family.
yeah.
And
And then they just need, I mean,
yeah, I'm pulling for 'em.
obviously they just need bodies at quarterback with Tyler Van
They
Dyke
need bodies, and
on his way out.
they're
Um,
going to get
yeah,
a
they're working
transfer
hard on a
quarterback.
transfer. So yeah, is Judd gonna have to play this year? Ideally, no, but the same way like Emery was ideally no last year, and now, we'll see what happens with Shakari Brown too. But
I
they
mean,
just need to
Ja'Cory
keep,
Brown. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, and then
they
I'll
just need
tell
to
you
keep
what.
recruiting quarterbacks. Like they
Yeah,
can't have enough right now.
I agree. I think Ja'Cory. I mean, he didn't play it all this year. He's going to start the bowl game this week, but it's like they're going to announce some kind of transfer quarterback, and we're going to say, "Here's your quarterback for this year," kind of thing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's what I can't believe a kid is going to transfer to Miami, right? like a fifth year kid or a fourth year. I think they're going for experienced guys that are kind of at the end of their career. So they're expecting to start whoever they get.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking about Jakari. This would be his third year. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I like Jakari. I hope he
Yeah.
stays.
Yeah. I mean, I
I,
still, I still think of that Georgia Tech game where, I know Georgia Tech was pretty bad
that's
last year,
great.
but he was really impressive in that game. All right, close things out. I wanted to just kind of hit on a couple, maybe kind of like what to expect from this class right away, because I know that's really what people want to see. They want to see what freshmen we can get excited about early on. That I kind of wrote about that on signing day on Wednesday.
Yep.
Obviously, Miami had this great group of freshmen last year. Five guys started games for them. Emory Williams, Mark Fletcher, Ruben Bain, Francis Maingoa, Damari Brown, plus the punter. This year, again, I don't know if this class needs as much of that immediate help, but um, we mentioned the defensive linemen who I think are going to help them. The two guys who I've kind of focused on because they're the two that have caught my attention right away. Elijah Lofton from Bishop Gorman, a tight end, who um, on his page, if you go to his 24/7 sports page, where they do every once in a while, you'll see they'll do a player comparison for the scouting report.
Uh-oh.
They got Brevin
Brevin
Jordan for
Jordan,
his.
of course.
Where's the same number 9 for Bishop Gorman, the same high school. It's a little superficial, but you also look at the body type is similar. Um,
Yeah, it
Elijah
really is.
is
It's
6'2",
very
220. Like, I don't remember what Brevin was listed at coming out of high school, but it was pretty close to that. And the thing that really is similar is they're kind of like offensive weapons almost more than they were tight ends. Um,
right.
Elijah ran for 9 touchdowns this year, which is something uh, Gorman did a lot with
Interesting.
Brevin. They would let him run the ball, like wildcat type stuff. And tight end was kind of such a mess for Miami last year. Their tight ends combined for like 160 receiving yards or something like that last year. Um, I would not be surprised if Elijah comes in
Incredible.
and is the guy for this team right away because they need one. Um, and certainly they need one as a
I
receiver. I know
agree.
they like McCormick as a blocker. We'll see if what his deal is, but they need a weapon at that spot. And maybe Elijah Arroyo, who looked so promising at one point before injuries. I don't want to just totally discount the possibility that he gets
Yeah, the
healthy.
kid was really,
Yeah.
yeah, he's
But Lofton gives him
really
another
good.
another option there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope Elijah's back because he was a really high-end elite kind of
Yeah,
guy.
he looked
And
awesome.
yeah. Oh, there's two Elijah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And the
well,
other guy,
one didn't have an eight.
yes, no H on Elijah Lofton. The one guy I really spotlighted because I think he's gonna start. Like if I had to pick one guy who I think
I
is
agree,
like
Bishop.
a starter, Zaquan
Except for,
Patterson
except,
from Chaminade Madonna,
yeah,
safety. Miami losing James Williams and Cameron Kinchins to the NFL draft. Notable because those two guys started as freshmen and kind of like at a certain point that year both took over as the starting safeties and never let that spot go. I think Zaquan Patterson can have the same kind of career as those two guys. He's a little bit more of like a physical, like strong safety thumper, like guy who can help you out and run support. Kind of plays like a linebacker safety role a lot of times for Chaminade. But I just think, playing at super high level at Chaminade fills a huge need for this team. Local kid, 6 interceptions this year to go along with all the stuff he does as a hitter. Um, he's the guy that I'm like, this guy's going to be day one impact. He's early enrolling, so uh, that he's going to help them out a lot because they need his help, and I think he can give it to them.
yeah, I agree on that. I think some of the, like you said, defensive linemen
Yeah,
will be used. I've seen a lot of freshman defensive linemen, I think
yeah, that's a spot because you can play 8 snaps, right? You can just come in on
yeah,
pass rush situations or whatever. Like those guys are going to help.
exactly. Exactly. I don't I think the
The receivers will be
yeah,
interesting.
I
They
agree.
need some help at receiver
And receiver.
potentially.
And
depending on, we're
receive
still waiting to hear, like you said, on Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo, but they're like, there's a distinct possibility they could lose all three of their starting receivers from last year.
right. Right. So all those guys, skill guys, they're not, Mario's not going to be, reticent about playing the young kids. He's not. He's gonna play whoever does well, can perform. So I'm not sure
Mhm.
about Chance Robinson, maybe him.
Yeah. JoJo
Yeah,
Trader.
yeah, JoJo. I think
He's a little
yeah,
bigger too, he's listed at 6'1". He gives him a little bit of size, I think, that they maybe were lacking.
I think one guy we didn't talk about that I've got to talk about is Abram Murray.
Oh
Because
yeah. What problem Mario told the story of
oh
his
my God, that
recruitment,
was
which is an
so funny.
all-time great recruiting story.
Yeah, he said Mario said that he Abram Murray was here on and he's from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Abram Murray, he was here for some kind of football camp, and
Yeah.
he was
They heard about him. Mario heard about him and
I went outside one day and he was kicking and
somehow conveyed to Abram Murray that he had an offer before actually meeting him. I don't know if it was like a direct message or whatever, or something like that.
and and he said he kept seeing him kick. He was kicking 62-yard
Yeah.
field goals over and over and over. Um, and then he met him.
And this was a while ago. He was the first guy committed. He committed back in
Yes,
early 2022, I think, like the summer of
July. I
2022.
think in
Yeah.
July of 22 he committed.
Yeah.
And Mario said Abram came over to him like the first time he had actually met him face to face, and he put
Uh-huh.
his hand out like assertively to shake hands, and he said, "Hey, I'm Abram Murray, and I'm your first commit.
Yeah.
I'm committed.
I'm
I'm
committed to
committed to the
Miami.
University of Miami." Right. I'm Abram Murray, and I'm committed to the University of Miami, which was really funny. And then
Yeah.
Mario said that's the fastest commit in the history of the University of
Yeah,
Miami.
called the Guinness Book of World Records. Some
He,
good story. The other one that was a good cool story was Nino Francavilla, from Connecticut, offensive lineman, a center, I think is probably the plan for him. They flipped him from Harvard, and he was on vacation in Miami or on like a class trip or something. And heard
oh,
about the
right.
Miami camp and just came to the camp and impressed the coaches. And
He
um,
said, I might as well, yeah, come to the camp,
yeah,
whatever. And
and he impressed the
wow.
Miami coaches, and he flipped from Harvard to Miami. Got to be maybe another record. I can't imagine there's ever been a Harvard to Miami uh
I
recruiting
bet there
flip.
has. I bet
Yeah,
there
maybe
has.
at some point, not a
Bet
lot
there
though.
has. I think
Um,
I think there probably has, but
I love looking at his offer list, and on those offer lists, uh, he probably, I'm sure other schools like reached out to him after he committed to Miami, but just like they didn't publicize the offers because he was locked in with Miami. But you look at the list and the schools that offered him, it's like Miami and then Columbia, Harvard, Penn, Yale.
that's funny. Well, he was saying Mario kept saying how smart he is
Yeah,
and how articulate, but I always wonder if people see Harvard and then they just
assume
assume,
it. Yeah,
as far as athletes go,
yeah.
assume that you're brilliant.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think clearly the fact that a bunch of Ivies were in there is telling about him. He's a prep school kid up from Connecticut. So yeah, some fun stories in this recruiting class. Last guy I want to mention because I mentioned him in my article as guys who might be able to help out early.
mhm.
Markel Bell,
Oh, the human
a human
skyscraper.
skyscraper, as
Yeah,
Mario called him.
yeah,
Um,
that's
Coming from a
great.
JUCO, they don't, with Jalen Rivers coming back, they probably don't need him this year. Obviously,
Right.
barring an injury, because you got Jalen, you've got Maingoa as your tackles, you've got Samson Okunlola still, obviously coming off an injury, but they clearly like him too. Remember, they were playing him at tight end a little bit just to get him on the field early last season. Um,
Yeah.
but Bell, I mean, listed at 6'8.5".
He's perfect. He's perfect to be to play left tackle for Judd Anderson.
It's true. Yeah, that's why you need a tall quarterback when you have a 6'9" left tackle. You need someone who can see over him. And I'm sure he'll be a good developmental prospect for Miami to work with for a year, and we'll see if they find a way to get him on the field this season.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I always find that offensive linemen, you never really know.
Yeah, it's the
It's
hardest. It is by far the hardest, even harder than quarterback. I think the hardest position to evaluate.
it's very hard. Some of them come in and they're just not really that good.
Yeah.
You know, you think they're gonna. It has to be so different in high school.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's just so different. They're not
Yeah. If
nearly
you're
as
big,
tough.
you can just bully guys to a certain
Yeah.
degree. That's why, him being a JUCO guy is interesting because he's playing against, it's obviously different than ACC football,
Well,
but
no, but Brian McKinney was a
I know.
JUCO
Yeah, yeah,
guy
I'm saying the
too.
JUCO guys, from Lackawanna.
I kind of like the
Right,
yeah,
because they've
Lackawanna.
played against not grown men, but bigger guys. Like you have to be, you're in a college level strength program. Like you're
Right?
going up against bigger guys who are more focused on it than like, a kid who's gonna be just a regular student at the University of Miami the next year, right? Like some of these guys are when they play in high school.
Good point. Yeah, true.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. I think we hit on pretty much everything.
Yes.
Any last thoughts on this class? I'm skimming through the list of commits to see if there's anyone we didn't mention that we maybe should have, but I
Um,
think we hit on basically everyone.
yeah, I think it's I think we said it. I think it's a really good class, and they need another quarterback. And I love that they got a kicker. I know I'm saying it again because
Yeah.
you just never know. I mean, if you're stuck, I just remember that one year
Yeah.
it was a mess. So before Andres Borregales' older brother came.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So no, we'll be on Portal Watch, obviously, with the quarterback in particular. Miami still in it with some high school recruiting. The big name to watch moving forward will be Xavier Mincy from Mainland, four-star safety, who it's like a Miami Florida battle, it sounds like, and he's set to announce at the All-American Bowl in January. So, another guy who could bolster this class even further and help. We talked about secondary being kind of a weakness in this class. You get a guy like him, helps fill that void a little bit.
yeah, that would be excellent. So yeah, all in all, a great class. Just waiting on that quarterback as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
All right. Let's wrap things up there. You can follow Susan on Twitter at @smillerdegnan. Follow her because she'll know when the quarterback is getting announced.
And
Maybe
and
sooner
next
rather than
week's
later.
game,
Yeah, we got a bowl game
yeah.
next week.
When next week, I will not be covering it. We're gonna get someone else, a stringer, to cover it. I will be the Orange Bowl. The Orange Bowl game is
Next Saturday.
2 days later. Yeah,
Yeah. But
Miami's on Thursday, but I'm getting some kind of award from the Orange Bowl, and I thought it was right to be there.
yeah.
And maybe, yeah, and 30-degree weather might convince me a little.
The third string quarterback, like, yeah. I'm
But
excited.
I'll
I'm
be there
excited to watch
watching
it.
the
I'm
game.
excited to see what
Me
Jakari
too.
does. So
I'm really excited. I'll be on that game, watching every
yeah.
second of it, doing whatever they need me to do to help.
Yeah.
But that's going to be really interesting. I don't think Rutgers lost that many players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think to the portal. Although they've had some guys actually, a couple major players, I think, enter the draft or whatever.
Right.
So, but look at David. I don't know. I mean, is losing a lot of the guys that would have played at that game. That game is just, to me, like it's like
it's an exhibition. It's like a preseason game.
Yeah, exactly. It's a developmental game for a young kid, or to give kids a chance and see what they can do. It's going to be different.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know what to expect really. But we'll be back next week. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about. I think we'll have a transfer quarterback by then. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week when we come back.
Yeah, but when we come back, it will be before that game.
Maybe. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out next week. We'll come back
see.
at some point, see what kind of news happens, our schedules.
I'm sure there's going to be no news.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again for listening. We will talk to you guys next week.